Memphis track boy, let's go.
My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing. My Colorado swing.
Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com. Joined again on a Sunday by football analyst William Gardner. We're going to get into the beginning of the 2025 Top Buffs Countdown by talking about some of the guys that just missed the cut. William and I did our top 40 lists, and they were pretty similar. So it's going to be creating some fun discussion here in the coming weeks. William, hope your weekend is going okay. It's darn hot out there this weekend in Colorado.
Yeah, it's been a 4-day weekend. I was just saying today feels like Saturday to me for some reason. It's really hot, but I haven't been out much, to be honest. Well, I went out with a friend and got Mexican at El Portillo Loco, I think, or Los Portillos Loco. I don't know what the hell it's called anyway. The two Portillos of something, I don't know. Out that where Hacienda, Colorado used to be a Colorado 925. It was fantastic food and did margaritas and a shot of tequila. And the waitress came by and said, "You want another shot?" And I'm like, "You don't need to see that." Nobody.
I was actually. Yeah, my wife is doing some work for a theater company, and so she's trying to get me out to these plays, and I can't make most of them, so I was able to. But we went down there to Littleton yesterday, and it was so hot, and the building was so old. They actually at intermission had to change the whole show and pretty much do an abridged version because the actors were going to pass out on stage, and everybody in the crowd was pretty unpleasant. But it's really rare that ever happens out here.
Yeah, it's not so much, but just the older built. A lot of Littleton is pretty old, but going to meet my niece for lunch at a newer Mexican place down by where I live, Los Chingones, I think it's called. So I'm doing the Mexican food weekend. Nice.
Well, the recruits that have been rolling through Boulder, and there's been nearly 40 of them, I think 37 between the spring and summer visit periods. They go to the Rio on Pearl Street, or it's just off Pearl Street. It's like a block off Pearl Street, and there's a nice view up there on the patio there. So I guess that's our segue into this recruiting discussion here. Right now, I think there's maybe some frustration that's building up just from the fact that they've hosted so many guys, and so many guys, have not announced or have gone somewhere else. And so there's some panic setting in because Colorado's only at 2 commits at this point. I would give it a couple weeks because a lot of these recruits are going to be announcing in the coming weeks. Early July seems to be kind of like the main timeline for a lot of these recruits because the dead period starts on Monday. So that allows these recruits to catch their breath, reflect, talk to people that are going to, have some type of say in their decision or, just some type of support in them making that decision. So it's still a little premature. Don't get me wrong. You would like to see a couple more commits on there right now based on how many that they've hosted, but you gotta let this play out a little bit.
I don't know, man. 40 years, well, however many years we've been, 20 years of the June panic. I just gotta, what's Tay with the brushing it off my shoulder?
That's it's Jay-Z. You got to get that one right. Jay-Z.
No, I think also that she does that with
shake it off. Anyway. Shake it off. You got to shake, not brush.
Yeah, something. Whatever. Yeah, you're coming to me. If you're coming to me for social commentary.
Well, you said Tay, so you led me right into that. I mean, if you're gonna.
Well, see, now you're just dragging me down. Why don't you just throw out Dan Lanning's name? We'll just go completely off the freaking rails. Holy crap, man! Can you focus? Get a little professionalism. No,
let's get her back on the tracks here.
I just think that this concern over commits in June is idiotic. I think it's silly and stupid, and I think it's like the 6-win predictions on our board, man. It's like I don't know how many years Coach Prime is going to have to be successful before some of these people get on board and trust what he's doing. But we're going to be fine in this recruiting class. Some people are like, well, we're going to sign more guys. Well, it's not going to be 30 freaking dudes, man. I mean, I still bet it's going to be less than 20 because, how many high school guys are we? We're still going to be doing this the way we've been doing it for the most part. We may take 15, 16, 17. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be markedly more than last year. We'll see. But a lot of these guys have said flat out they weren't making any announcements until July 1st or later. So what the hell's the big angst about it? I really, So
well, there's some other Big 12 schools. Well, I mean, pretty much every other Big 12 school, I think, does have more commits, and I think that's where some of that comes in. But
good for them.
Colorado's biggest commits have come later in cycles.
Yeah.
With Deion Sanders, and certainly with him being back in Texas and dealing with his illness, I think, this is a staff that is not going to take guys just to take guys.
Right.
They could get 15, 20 commits within the next month if they wanted to. I think in this era, that's probably a better approach. If you're not willing to see this as somebody that you're going to want to get in the program and have at least be like a special teams contributor from the jump, you might as well just save that for the portal.
You got to make sure that they have the right mentality for your team, and you also got to kind of, as best you can, make sure that they're coming to stick around, and not leave after year one. And so you got to pick guys that are going to contribute right off the bat and that are going to be of value. We just did this top 40, and this is the first time I've ever done the top 40 where every single one of the guys in my top 40 I expect to participate significantly.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have
guys outside the top 40 for me too. Yeah.
And we don't have spots for dudes that just come in and breathe air and suck oxygen and wear a CU jersey. At some point you got to either trust that Coach Prime does this or just flat out admit that you don't. I don't know. I got no qualms whatsoever in saying that we're going to be fine in recruiting this year. I don't care how long it takes.
Yeah. And I hope you've been staying in touch with BuffStampede.com. We've been covering recruiting. It's been pretty crazy the last week. I think they've had almost 20 guys on campus here recently. And so I think one thing that I need to do this week, William, is to kind of break everything down, because there's been so many guys that have rolled through Boulder and so many different timelines. I think I need to update folks on kind of where all these guys are, because even for myself, I think I need a refresher on a few of these guys.
Right. Yeah. And you go back and the board has a nice feature where you can look at official visits and you kind of just roll back through the weeks, and I pretty much see them all. I think, how far back we're considering this to go back, but I'd go back through into May, I guess, and some of these guys, but there's a lot of dudes, and most of them haven't committed to some places, and there's a couple of them that were already committed somewhere else that I feel fairly good about switching to us. So, we just have to wait and see them.
Today's episode is brought to us by Macaulay Capital Fractional CFO Services. Is your business looking for financial guidance and support, but not yet big enough to hire a full-time CFO? Well, we have a solution for you. Hiring a fractional CFO who can work with your business on a part-time basis. You get the benefit of having a seasoned financial expert on your team without the commitment or expense of a full-time hire. And here's the best part. It's likely that a partnership with Macaulay Capital will be a win-win situation, meaning that your business will make more money from the guidance of a fractional CFO than the total cost of partnering with us. For more information or to set up a meeting, please visit MacaulayCapital.com. That's MCCAULEY Capital.com. William, everybody that listens to our podcast knows that we love the Hungry Toad. They've been bringing a taste of England to Boulder since 1991. At the Hungry Toad, they serve up hearty homemade fare from their scratch kitchen paired with a brilliant selection of British beers. They're the perfect spot for friends and family to gather, relax, and enjoy the warm, welcoming atmosphere. If you're mad for football, so are they. Whether it's the American gridiron or European footy, they proudly support CU football and CU women's soccer. The Hungry Toad, Boulder's local pub that's not on Pearl Street. Head to 2543 Broadway in Boulder.
And you know what? Hans Serrata don't take no whoopings either. He hands them out. How's that for a second?
I love it.
I don't know. You watch some of these guys come through and how they react and how they respond. And I don't know. I'm not good at reading people's social media and faces and tea leaves and all that crap. But some of these guys seem pretty obvious to me. I don't throw out any names at this point at risk of jinxing anything, but there's at least two of them I feel very confident about. But I don't know. They haven't talked to me. The kid hasn't told me anything. I'm just reading between the lines,
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to get some commits here in the coming days. In fact, we saw Corey Phillips hinting at something big coming down the pike on social media. Let's get your thoughts on the third week of the Buffalo strength and conditioning work. You're getting into some of the kind of the repetitive things of what we're seeing on social media, but there's always a few things to pick out there. Anything jump off the video to you this week?
Well, Jordan Seaton without his shirt off was freaking impressive. Holy hell, does that guy look good? I can't believe he cut all the way down to 305. I wouldn't have guessed that, but he looks fantastic. That's what he said he was, 305. I didn't personally weigh him myself, but he looks like a bodybuilder, for Christ's sakes. I think he'll start to build back up on that, and he'll play in the NFL at 315 to 320. But he's plenty big enough and strong enough now for what he's going to do with us, and his quickness and speed is going to be crazy. And I think his work ethic leads others. When you're a great player and you work that hard, other people work just as hard to try to compete and keep up. So that jumped out at me. Other than that, they're just working hard. Guys look good, and I don't know. Everybody kind of rolls their eyes at strength and conditioning. Everybody does it. Well, everybody does it, and some guys get more out of it than other guys, and some teams get more out of it than other teams. I think we've got a good coach and a good staff running ours. I think we're going to be in better shape than most of the teams we face, and I think it's going to really pay off for us on the field in what we're doing in both injury prevention and domination up front. So what I see looks good to me. I don't know.
I think it's been a while since I feel like they've had a bad strength and conditioning program at Colorado, despite some of the results. I mean, you probably have to go back to, how far back would you have to go? Because I thought like Malcolm Blacken did some decent things. Maurice Sims were pretty good. The guy that came over from Stanford struggled.
The first dude under not McCartney, McIntyre. The first dude under McIntyre, I think that's the guy you're talking about that came from Stanford. He was an idiot. He had no clue how to coach strength and conditioning for football. He was an Olympic athlete guy, and what he was doing for us didn't work. But Dave Foreman, it finally came to me. The other guy, yeah, he. Or was that what it was? That yeah, okay.
Right. Dave Foreman from Stanford, and then he brought in Drew Wilson, who I thought was actually an upgrade there for sure. Yeah,
right. So I thought that they've been fairly decent. The second guy from Stanford, didn't we get a second guy from Stanford?
Shannon Turley? Yeah, that didn't work out so well. That was kind of shocking, to be honest with you. One of the more surprising coaching hires that hasn't worked out at Colorado.
Now the guy who built the Stanford program is now coaching second at 2A football in high school in Colorado, for God's sake.
Yeah, Holy Family, right?
Holy crap. Holy crap, Holy Family. But yeah, so it's funny how people can be on top of the coaching world and then fall. It's like you go back under McIntyre. Gary Bernardi was a great coach, man, until he stopped being a coach and was retired on active duty, So I don't know. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have. I thought that Coach Mo was great, and I think that Coach Swayze is great. And so we're just moving along and doing what we got to do.
Do you see Draylon Miller's reception on Monday from Juju and 7-ons? That was one of the more impressive catches we've seen along the sideline.
Let me ask you a rhetorical question. Do you suppose I watch 7-on-7?
Well. In most cases, I would agree with you. That is not real football, and it drives me nuts when people release stats from 7-on-7s. Like you could just check down and get 10 yards every time in 7-ons.
Right,
Come on,
right. So the answer to your question is no. I did not see it. So,
but this was tight coverage, and that's what made him impressive.
Well, and Draylon Miller's one of those guys. I don't know where we're going to wind up on our top 40. I know where he landed in mine. We got some one of the things about doing that top 40 is we got some legit talent on this team, man.
Yeah, no doubt. I thought it was funny. They were signing helmets for, I would assume, charity or fans or whatever. And Quentin Gibson is signing his name with a 6 on there, and they're giving him crap. They're like, you haven't earned 6. You can't put 6 on the helmet. And Draylen Miller, wears number 6 for the Buffaloes right now. He and Quentin Gibson kind of got in a little shouting match, and Quentin Gibson says, "I'll 6 you any day." I thought that was hilarious. I like the confidence from Quentin Gibson. He's got to grow up a little bit just in terms of a maturation standpoint, not from a maturity standpoint, physical wise. But I enjoyed that kind of that bravado. You need that confidence within your guys coming into the program,
and that kind of competition too. So that really pushes guys to excel a little bit more at each level. So. It's a good thing.
Yeah. We saw Kyle Carpenter, a walk-on from Buford in Georgia, join the team working with the defense. He's listed at 200, so I would imagine he's probably going to factor in at safety. We'll see. He didn't play a ton, put up a lot of stats there in high school, but looks the part. So maybe could be a good guy to take a chance on there. Tyrekus Davis, the transfer from Wyoming, also arrived on campus this week. They announced him signing with the Buffs, and he's a guy we've talked about a little bit on the show. We're going to get more into this later in the show. Let's curb that on Tyrekus Davis because we're going to talk about him later. Anything else stand out to you about what you saw from the team this past week?
No, not really. Just working hard and good mentality and. Good bonding, and they all seem to get along, and I think that chemistry is going to be there. I think Coach Prime learned a lot that first year about making sure there's chemistry on the team, and so it just looked good. I don't know, it's summer workouts. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I've never, honest to God, never come in and say, "Hey, well, they look like crap. They're just sitting around." So I think it just, it's what you expect, and so it's all good.
Shadur Sanders, you want to touch any of this stuff with the speeding tickets? I
just put this. I mean, I've driven 100 miles an hour before. It ain't the end of the freaking world, man. He ain't robbing purses from old ladies. It's a stupid thing to be in the news. He shouldn't have done it. He paid his fine. Moving on. Thanks.
Yeah. No, we won't spend too much time on this. I just the media reactions on both sides of it. It's like, it's okay to say, Shadur, he can learn from this.
Right.
But beyond that, no. I mean, yeah.
It's just, it's like, I don't know. He's mid-20s and he drove a fancy car fast. Okay. I don't know,
What car did you put over 100? Do you remember?
It wasn't anything special, but I'm sure it was somewhere between Denver and San Diego on that 17-hour drive back and forth across the desert, You
just turned it into the William Gardner Autobound, right?
Yeah, you get your bet. Well, it was back in the day when you had your cassette tape in the dashboard, and playing the music and trying to cover the mileage,
Yeah.
I don't know what wasn't the end of the world. I mean, I didn't try to do it in any big city or anything, so I don't know. But I don't know. It's just a dumb thing for me. It's like you got guys down in Georgia doing armed robberies and shooting people and raping people and everything, 9,000-10,000 things, and you can't get a news story about that. But Shadur Sanders farts in the wind, and it's a big news story. It's idiotic.
Yeah. I'm just sorry. I'm distracted. Now I'm now picturing you, William, driving in the desert over 100 miles an hour, seeing some Gloria Estefan. I can just see that.
Easy, man. Probably like the Eagles, and might been a little George Michael. I don't know, whatever.
George Michael, okay.
80s and the 90s.
Did you ever see the Key and Peele movie with the cat Keanu?
No.
It's hilarious. I would recommend that, and yeah, you'll understand why I brought that up now if you watch that.
What's the headline of this podcast going to be? We mock William? Is that?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, I
mock the 80s and 90s because we weren't there.
Well, I was born in 79 there, Chief. So, uh, all right. So let's move on. Yeah. I mean, I don't think Cleveland deserves Shadur Sanders. So we'll see how
No,
that goes going forward.
Cleveland deserves itself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The Wyoming home game, it was announced that is a sellout for the upcoming 2025 season, the first sellout announced. It sounds like some more are getting close to being a sellout as well. William, let's get into last year's re-ranking of our top 10. I thought we did a pretty good job on our top buffs countdown in 2024. To go back and recap what we did last year, and this is something that we did about the same time last year. The first story was put up mid-June.
Can we start with the elephant in the room, which is that
Uh,
one person said Travis Hunter's the obvious choice.
well, yeah, I was going to get there, William. You'll get your flowers. Shadur Sanders was number one on our list last year, but William had him number two. And then, of course, Travis Hunter was number two on our list last year. William had him number one, so he proved to be right there. Absolutely, I had Travis one the year before. I was just a year too early on that, I guess. We had last year number three on our list was defensive lineman BJ Green the second. Number four was receiver LeJohntay Wester. Number five was offensive lineman Justin Mayers. Number six, safety Shiloh Sanders. Number seven, Jimmy Horn Jr. Number eight, Will Shepard. Number nine, edge Deion Hayes. And number 10, Chidozie Nwankwo. And so I went back and I re-ranked these, William. We had to drop, of course, Deion Hayes out of there because he got hurt after the first four games. And, Jimmy Horn just didn't play enough football for me last year. That was a hard guy to keep off my top 10 re-ranking last year. And then Justin Mayers, he actually did grade out as the Buffalo's best offensive lineman on Pro Football Focus last year, but wasn't quite to that number 5 standard that we held him to in the preseason. And then Shiloh dropped out of the top 10 again, injury issues.
It's remarkable, I think, looking back at how close we all were on most of our ranking, on most of them. Like we had like there were some guys like Brian Al had LeJohntay fairly far down at number 12, and he had Chidozie way down at 23 or something like that. But other than that, we pretty much had the similar, 2 or 3 spots of each other.
So re-ranking those guys, if you could go back, get in a time machine, go back a year before last season, knowing what you know, watching that season, you'd got to go Travis Hunter 1, Shadur Sanders 2, LeJohntay Wester 3, up 1 spot on my personal list, BJ Green at 4, Cameron Silman Craig, who was 14 on the preseason list last year, up at 5 on my re-rank list. So the highest mover up the list for me. Number 6, DJ McKinney. He was 11th on the preseason list. Number 7, Arden Walker. Number 28 on the preseason list. So a huge jump for him. Chidozie Nwankwo at 8 on my re-rank list. I put Levonta Bentley at 9 and Jordan Seaton at 10. You could have maybe thrown Will Shepard in there. Maybe Jimmy Horn, Nikai Hill-Green. What would your re-ranked list look like compared to mine?
Well, I think looking back, I mean, it's a tough freaking 10 to go with because you're looking, you're like, right off the top of my head, I think Nikai Hill-Green and Jimmy Horn Jr. and Will Shepard, based on their importance for the season, are no brainers. But I look at these 10 guys, I'm like, who would I kick out? Vontae Bentley, I think, might not be in there for me. I think if I was going to pick an inside linebacker, it'd be Hill-Green, but that's splitting hairs. I think Jordan Seaton clearly played his way into the top 10. Arden Walker was arguably the second best defensive player on the team. I think we had a lot of really good players, which is why we had 8, 9 wins. So I think it's going to be just as difficult this year. I think we'll see just as many changes at the end of the season this year, maybe even more so because there's not the 2 obvious guys in Shadur and Travis.
Yeah, this was
in my view, there's one obvious guy this year, and beyond that, it was tough.
Well, it's a little different. Our top buffs list this year in that, like, I don't know if this is the appropriate terminology, but it's not as top heavy. It's more. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jordan Seaton could be an All-American this year, but you're talking about going from a Heisman candidate and a quarterback that basically set completion percentage records, and now you're dealing with a team that has second and third teamers that are so close together that it's hard to know where to rank them at this point.
A lot more depth. And I think potentially still just as many top end stars, but they haven't proven it yet, like a Draylon Miller or a Marion Miller and guys like that. Cam Michael, I mean, we still have, the Travis and Shadur LeJohntay type guys on the team. They just haven't previously done it yet. So I think the talent is still there. What's missing to some of these kids is the experience and the prove it factor, but it's going to be an interesting season. I still think we're a 9-win team based on that, but there's a couple of spots that are a little bit shaky, I think. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's always fun to look back afterwards, and like Arden Walker's one of those guys that I believe very few fans truly understand what an impact he had on the season, because everybody thinks if you don't have 10 sacks, you're not getting the job done as an edge, and he was so important to that defense. He's coming back, so I don't know, and I think even with Chidozie playing as well as he did, a little surprising he's not getting a shot at the next level, but I think we upgraded up front over him, frankly.
Yeah, if anything, you've got a lot more depth,
and a lot more size, length, and explosiveness, quite frankly.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the 2025 Top Buffs countdown, starting with 40 next week, let's talk about the 4 guys that were honorable mention that didn't quite make the list but got votes from both of us or one of us. And one guy that got votes from both of us that I talked about being on campus this last week is Tyrekus Davis from Wyoming. I really wish he could be in the top 40. We both had him at 38. But because kind of how this works out, like, if you've got a guy ranked pretty high, or I do, vice versa, it can knock guys that are on both our lists down below it. So I think he deserves to be on the list. I think that if he was an inch or two taller, that this would be a guy a lot of people would be talking about coming into this program.
Well, I think if no other reason, I was looking back over some articles about him, and there's one line in one of these that says, Davis has near perfected the peanut punch technique when tackling. For that alone, he ought to be in the top 40. I don't know what the hell a peanut punch is, but apparently it works. I don't know. But I think Tyrekus Davis is a guy that's played a lot of football. He's got a lot of experience, a lot of it at this level, frankly. Even though he was at Wyoming, he's playing against some teams at our level. And so I think he comes in and he could be a very big surprise on this team in terms of what he can do and his ability to step in there and really give us good reps really all across the he's not the biggest guy ever. But I think his experience and abilities are going to really serve us well. So I think he's a super addition to the team, and really he can pick it up. If Deion Sanders thinks you can play corner, you could probably play corner.
Kevin Mathis too. I mean, people forget about his resume, and and I will ask next time I see Kevin Mathis about the peanut punch technique. I'm gonna have to. I gotta know now. Wouldn't you say Tyrekus Davis is probably the favorite to be the third corner right now?
Yeah, him or Deion Parks, maybe. I don't know. I think there's
who is a guy we got to talk about now, because you had him at 36 on your list. Yeah. So he's another honorable mention guy here.
Yeah, so I think there's some guys out there looking at the cornerback drop down here. I mean, so Hodge is probably going to be the nickel, I guess, and then McKinney is one. R.J. Johnson's probably number 2, and then Tyreek and Parks is the next 2, I would think. I don't know. We'll see what Noah King does. He's got he's certainly got the resume as a high school guy, but now he's got to prove it at this level.
Yeah. You also had Ben Finiseth on your list. I did not.
Is he next, or is Tion Parks next?
Oh, I thought we talked about Tion Parks. You want to talk more about him?
No, I just wonder what we're doing here.
Okay. Yeah, we're just moving along. Unless you got more to say on Tion Parks. I just need to see more of him in the program.
Yeah, and he's another guy that's played a lot of football, I think, and he's a lot bigger than Davis. At 6'1", 190-ish. Did a lot of good things at a lower level, so now you just got to bring it up at this level. So he's a good looking prospect. I think he's one of the better looking transfer prospects we brought in this off season, to me.
And that's a good sign that he's not in our top 40, right? I think that we're talking about guys that in the past you're talking about guys that are developmental pieces. You're talking about guys that could be on the field playing a significant role for the Buffaloes this fall.
Right. I think we had guys in the top 40 in the last 2 years, that didn't end up playing that much, and we didn't expect them to play that much. That's why I think, this team goes, I don't know, 50 deep in guys that can actually play, maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, kind of building off that, at 43 on our list, if you put together all of our votes, Ben Finiseth, he ran with the first team defense this spring, and he's 43. So again, you went on the whole spiel last week, and it was a good one about talking about how he just is not going to lose that walk-on tag to some people. I don't think you want Ben Finiseth starting the majority of football games for the Buffaloes this fall, but if you need him to, I think he's going to be pretty solid in that role.
Yeah, and I think our defensive staff knows what he can do and what he's good at, and they can put him in situations where he can use his abilities. He's a guy that's going to know the defense inside and out. He's going to study the other team. He's going to know what their tendencies are. He may not be the fastest guy or the biggest guy out there at safety, but he's not going to make mistakes, and that counts for a lot. He's be an NFL draft pick or anything, but he's a guy who's not going to make mistakes on the back end. He's going to take good angles, always know what he's supposed to do, and that has so much more value than people think. And I would feel confident anytime they put him out there that they're going to put him in a situation. They're going to put him out there covering some top wide receiver one-on-one or anything. That's not his skill set, but not only is he going to be a good safety, but I bet you 4 or 5 times this year he's going to light some clown up.
Well, he's not going to have those kickoff coverage hits, so he's going to have that kind of built up wanting to just take somebody's head off within him. So I think that's definitely going to get unleashed on somebody at some point this fall. And the other honorable mention here is Andre Roy Jr., who was actually number 40 on both of our lists, but didn't make it because, again, like I said earlier, sometimes one of us has got another guy ranked higher and it kind of pushes them above. Transfer from Maryland, 6'6", 294. Started 7 games there. I mean, again, not trying to sound like a broken record here, but you got a guy that comes in from the Big Ten that started some games at left tackle, and he's 44 on our list.
I mean, the dude started 7 games in the Big Ten at left tackle. The kid can play, and he may be one of those guys that really surprises us and comes in and earns one of those starting spots. I don't know. He's clearly not going to beat out Jordan Seaton, but but at least this year, and I'm knocking on every piece of wood I can find. If something happens to Jordan, we got a guy that can come in and has proven he can play at this level at that position. So that ups the competition, makes everybody better. And Andre Roy is one of those guys that most of the fans are gonna be like, is that guy on the team? I don't even know that name, right? He's an offensive lineman, but we got two guys that came in from the Big Ten, started games at that level, and neither one of them is most people given much credibility as far as getting a starting spot, me included, which is kind of silly, but it just shows the kind of depth we've brought in, and I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, and speaking of depth at positions, there's a former 5-star receiver recruit that, yeah, he didn't live up to the 5-star billing at Florida State, but he made plays there, and he's got the frame. I barely even gave Hakeem Williams much consideration because there's just so much other talent in that room, which is just kind of crazy. And that, again, kind of emphasizes the thought that the depth on this team has improved at some spots. And we've ad nauseum talked about the couple of spots where it hasn't. Going back to O-line, I thought yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just talking about Hakeem Williams and Sincere Brown, to me, here's my list, and I was checking off guys, and there's like five guys at wide receiver that I had to have in there. Omarion Miller, Draylon Miller, Joseph Williams, Isaiah Hards, Cameron Michael. I just couldn't find space for anybody else in that receiver room. Doesn't mean they're not going to be any good, but when you're talking a top 40, I'm trying to go down and figure, they're not going to. I don't know, Hakeem Williams and Sincere Brown came with all the talent in the world out of high school. Now they got to prove they can do it at this level and compete and beat guys that, to me, look like they're better than them at this point. So there's just so much talent in that wide receiver room. It's hard for me to get another guy in there.
At risk of belaboring the same point once again, I mean, Jack Castera is not really in consideration for this Top Buffs countdown. Back in 2022, he was a walk-on as a redshirt freshman, and he had a pretty big role on this team. He goes off. He's clearly a better football player now after spending time at Charlotte and Utah State and developing, and he comes back on scholarship, and that's where you see the difference in this program, right? From 3 years ago to now.
And I'll tell you something. I would bet money that Jack Castera has some big plays this season.
Probably, yeah.
At some point, he's going to get overlooked by defenses. I bet he has 20 or 30 catches and a couple of big first downs at, impact games and things like that. But that wide receiver room is so deep, it's like I couldn't in good conscience put, the three senior guys, Sincere Brown, Terrell Timmons, and Jack Castera, I just couldn't fit them in, man.
Who was the first guy you mentioned in terms of a guy that you also considered?
Oh God, I don't know. Hold on, I got to open my list here. Ryan. I honest to God, I really want.
It's one of our deranged jokes on this show now. At this point,
I sent you my list, and I said others I considered strongly, and he was on the top of that list.
Yeah. Was it the standing backflips, or what did
no,
it for you?
I just think he's a damn good quarterback. He's not going to be a first-round NFL pick or maybe even play in the NFL, but he's a guy that you put him on the field, you can feel comfortable he's going to get the job done. He's not going to be spectacular. You couldn't put everything on his shoulders like you do with Shadur. But anybody who thinks Ryan Staub can't play the game at our level is an idiot.
I've heard that this is one of the healthiest quarterback rooms, too. And I think, Ryan Staub, being third on the pecking order and being a class kid like he is and just a great teammate, lends itself to that room to be a better room. When you've got guys that, are looking to lift other guys up too. And right. Clearly he loves his experience in Boulder.
Yeah. And it's it goes back to leadership and other things that you bring to the table beyond just, what you can do on the field. So I think he's a valuable part of this team. I think he'll also have some moments this season before all is said and done. It's a long season, man.
Yeah. And that was a good point. Actually, I think was Cooper Lovelace that was saying this on one of the videos where he's talking about, depth is really what separates teams once you get to game 9, 10, 11, 12 in the season. And that's been the story of Colorado football, good and bad. In 16, there was some decent depth. They were actually able to stay pretty healthy that season. That helped. But last year, I thought that was a big part of it as well. guys being able to step up in certain spots, and you guys like Keaton Wade emerging in week 8 when the guy wasn't even on the radar a couple weeks before that. On the O-line, there were so many guys to consider. Taimani was first team right tackle this spring. Ake Ogunbi looks the part. He played some.
Larry Johnson's played tackle at a high level.
Larry Johnson made the list, though.
Okay, did he? Okay.
Yeah. Trying to think of who else. Cooper Loveless, I mentioned. Kareem Harden. Tyler Brown. Yaya Tia.
Yaya is on my list. I don't think that Kareem Harden and Tyler Brown are going to be in the mix at all this year, but I hope maybe they prove me wrong.
This segment might actually be more encouraging to Colorado fans than any segment we do on this whole list. Some of these guys that
all the guys got left off the list. Gabriel Lightfoot, I couldn't find room for, and he's a damn good defensive tackle. I couldn't find room for London Merritt, and I think he's going to make a splash as a true freshman. Jeremiah Brown, I've been waiting for the light to come on for him every spring. He's great, and I want to see it in the fall. Kylan Salter looks like an NFL linebacker in the shower. That sounds a little weird. in a t-shirt, but there's just a lot of guys. Aki Ogunbi, played some ball at Texas A&M, and he's just got to prove it here. So there's a lot of guys that didn't make this top 40, that have some real talent.
Yeah. So it's going to be fun as we get into this list, because
we've ever had anything like this before in our top 40.
Not from a depth standpoint. Yeah,
and usually when I'm getting down to those last 3 spots, I'm looking at a bunch of guys I don't think are going to play, and I'm like, who's the best of those guys that maybe has the most upside down the road, Whereas this year, I'm leaving out that I'm fairly sure are going to play a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think every guy that we talked about today is going to do something, even if that is special teams, a field goal PAT unit as an O lineman. I mean, these guys will all, I think, be dressing.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that was fun. And we spent time doing the position predictions, but when we get into this list, it seems to just kind of open up the discussion even more. And this is the time of year to do that. So I enjoy this exercise that we do every year. I think it's been about a decade at least, right, that we've been doing this now.
Yeah, and I think you look at all these offensive linemen. There's so much size and talent and experience there, and now it's up to those 3 coaches to put it together and make it work, and then it's up to Shermer to call an offense that makes a difference. I think the 2 positions that were questionable to me in doing this top 40 are the same 2 positions everybody got question marks about, which is running back and inside linebacker. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I expect at both positions to have some guys be some positive surprises this year.
Yeah.
People coming.
William, and this is not a slight at Evan Worthington, but do you know there was a year that he was number 1 on this list?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Holy hell, really?
And I like Evan. I don't mean that as anything against him, but come on.
Yeah. I'd like to, who did we have in the top 5 before the, let's see, what 20, was it, what was the last season with Durrell? Was that 23, 22?
22.
22. Well, I'd like to know who the hell we had in the top 5 that year.
Let me pull it up. That'll be fun.
Me and you and
good. You just gotta hum the Jeopardy theme music as I pull up this list.
Dun, dun, dun.
22 top us.
Yeah, and I think you look at this. I'm looking at my top 40 list, and I don't know how that came out when combined with yours, but man, there's a lot of people on there that could play the game.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
See what we're working with here. Okay. The 2022 Top Buffs Countdown. At number 1 was Terrence Lang.
Oh,
Number
I ever loved.
2, number 2 was tight end Brady Russell. Number 3, offensive lineman Tommy Brown. Number 4, linebacker Josh Chandler Samito. Number 5, defensive lineman Jalen Sami. Number 6, offensive lineman Casey Roddick. Number 7, edge Guy Thomas. Number 8, running back Alex Fontenot. Number 9, quarterback JT Shrout. Oh, I'm just gonna stop there, man. That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. That's enough.
It's not-
There's good players. There's really good players that I just named, but come on.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
That's,
Do you want me to keep going? I mean, that is yeah,
and
that's
it just goes back to like the first year that Coach Prime came in and all the grief he got for clearing it out, the roster, and there was nobody that belonged at this level. Almost, it's just crazy. You listen to that, like Terrence Lang, for God's sakes, man, just never lived up to what he was supposed to be. And
yeah.
well, all those guys were hopes and dreams guys, Hope it works out this year. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm obsessed with this list now. I got to get back present with you.
Back, and so, oh my God. But I think looking at this list and doing this, putting this top 40 together, really solidifies my belief that we'll be an 8 and 9 win team again.
The question is, do any of the honorable mentions, would they have been top 10 back in 2022?
Oh yeah, yeah, probably so. I mean, are you kidding me? That what's his name? Cooper Loveless certainly would have been the best offensive lineman on the team. Maybe that went to Florida State, but I don't know. Anyway,
I guess we'll lead with this. Coach Prime, get healthy, because we need you in Boulder. These lists are a lot more fun when you were at the helm of the football program in Boulder.
Yeah. Well, get him back, get things rolling, and then things are going to roll. It's going to be good.
He was out there fishing with Travis on Friday. Did you see that, Coach Prime?
No. It just makes me sick. I can't go fishing. Well,
Michael Irvin stopped by the ranch and Travis Hunter, so it's been good that he's been getting support. Of course, Deion Sanders Jr. has been there this whole time, and I wish we knew what was going on, but you definitely respect someone's privacy when they're going through something medical wise. And now there's a recruiting dead period coming up, so I think you get rested up, healed up for camp, and you get those recruits on campus and you try to close the deal and flip some guys. It might be flip season more so this year because your head coach wasn't able to be around to do those in-person meetings.
And everybody's piling on that Coach Prime wasn't there bandwagon, but the other reality is that the national mantra is going to be that we're going to fall off the table because we don't have Shadur and Travis, that we did it all because of Shadur and Travis, and you don't want to go there because we're not going to win, and Coach Prime can't win, and blah, blah, blah. And he's going to have to keep proving it, and I think he'll have to put together, even after, I think he's going to have to put together another 8 or 9 win season this year before people start to get the clue and believe, So I think I think a lot of players probably hear that. They probably go to these other places and they're like, well, you don't want to pick Colorado, man, because they're going to fall back off the table, and then Coach Prime will leave, and blah, blah, blah. I think we can all pretty much fill in what the dialogue is going to be for the negative recruiting right now. So he's got to come back and show that what he's doing here works, even without a top quarterback and a top Heisman Trophy winner, and so that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah. And the thing is that it's all verbal commitments at this point. You've got, to your point, there's still a wait and see approach. We had that initially when Coach Prime got to Boulder, and now we've got to kind of go through the second wave of it because of, like you mentioned, there was so much attention on Travis and Shadur that there is kind of that negative recruiting that other schools can do, or just the perception of the program. But like you said, if they win 8 games this fall, that it's going to be flip season for sure.
Right. Then everybody's going to want to be like, then you got proof of concept, and everybody's going to want to get on board and be part of it.
Yeah, and you got even if Caden Salter is your starter this year, you still got your future quarterback in Juju Lewis. So you've got a lot of the pieces. Draylon Miller has got to come back for another year in college before he can go off to the NFL. So you're going to have some pieces in places. And I guess just to close out with the topic we started this show with, in terms of the lack of commitments at this point. If I remember going to the team recruiting rankings on 24/7, I would recommend that Colorado fans go to like the overall and then go to the Big 12 because that's who you're competing against. You're not going to rank with the NIL market the way it is right now ahead of schools like Alabama in terms of the recruiting rankings from the prep ranks, but they were 1, 1, and 2 in the Big 12 in terms of overall recruiting rankings the last 3 years under Deion Sanders. If they continue to stay in the top 2 every year, they're going to continue to win a lot of football games, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And the other thing to take into account that people forget is that we're not going after every single guy these top NIL teams are going after, because we're not taking guys just because they want the biggest check. Those guys are not going to fit into our program, and we want guys who understand the value of what we're doing and will work as hard as everybody we already got here. We can't take prima donnas and butt chasers and clowns, so we're a little more selective than some of these other places. I throw out again, Texas A&M buys themselves a top 10 team every year and they suck. So, and I just don't believe that NIL is the whole deal for a lot of these guys anyway. There's 1,000 different reasons why anybody picks any job, and it's not always the highest paycheck. And I think for the most part, everybody that's at the top level is getting something, right? So what you're looking at is what's the marginal difference between what somebody else is offering and what we're offering, and then is that enough to overcome some of the benefits we have and downsides, whatever. So, I think these decisions are complicated, and people who think it's just whoever signs the highest check, I think you're being silly and don't understand human beings.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of the highest check is what happens out of the prep ranks, but then they get on campus, William, and the reality that you still only get to put 11 guys on the football field at a time kind of sets in. And if you're not getting that playing time and you're not living up to it, they're not going to be happy with the NIL they're giving you. You're not going to be happy with your lack of playing time. And then that's why you see all this movement in college football. And that's why for Colorado, if you can be the second spot, it is the right type of player you can continue to be ranked really high with the overall recruiting rankings, but I just don't foresee Colorado having a top 15 prep class as long as Deion Sanders is the head coach of Colorado.
We're not going to sign enough guys for one thing, and we're going to cherry pick the guys we want to fit our program. And then I think what you're pointing out and what people need to also realize is that part of our recruiting, we're recruiting long term. Okay, so we bring a high school kid in. We're also thinking about, like you said, a year or 2 years down the road, getting him back here, because we want to make that impression so that when he does jump in the portal, we're his first thought.
Yeah, it does matter. Yeah, I mean, you have so many of these transfer decisions that are made, with these kids before they even hit the portal, and it's not even tampering. It's, they pick up the phone and they're the ones that want a landing spot, and so they start asking questions, and that's what you've seen.
And people lose sight of the fact that they're human beings, man. It's like they got stuff going up in their domes too, and they're sitting there. I don't like this place, but man, you know what? When I went to Colorado, I loved that place. Maybe I could try. Maybe I made the wrong choice. I look back at my life and I'm like, shouldn't have taken that job. I should have took that job. And they're the same way, right? And that sits in your memory, and when it's time to move to something else, you pull that back up. You're not just going to go like, let's go out of left field and how about frickin' Wyoming? I mean, there's going to be connections that have been made in your head, and that's where you're going to go first.
So if Dan Lanning jumps in the pool with every visitor, will that help their transfer recruiting down the road?
Well, I mean, so far, him, getting naked with teenage boys has not helped them at all.
He was wearing swim trunks. Let's at least be honest.
Whatever. Hey, man, since when do I got to be? I don't know. I don't even have a media ethics responsibility. I'm just a dude. I can say whatever I want.
Clearly that's the case. So what's going to be your order today? You said you're going out to get some Mexican food.
Yeah, going out with the niece to get some Mexican food. I'm the father figure, which has got to be kind of frightening, but there it is.
So what are you going to order? I'm getting
been
hungry. It's lunchtime, so I'm trying to live vicariously through you.
I haven't been to this place. I think it's more of a newfangled upscale Mexican. So I don't know. We got to see what.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Some fancy tacos, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Margaritas for sure, and then we'll go from there.
I was trying to get better about my diet, but I did throw back some nachos yesterday. They were pretty delicious, I got to say.
Yeah. Well, we went to Los Dos Patrios, and everything we had was fantastic. I would have sat there and ate those chicken quesadillas until I got sick. Oh my God, they were good.
Well, have a great lunch. Let me let you get going so you can get there on time. But always fun, and we get to jump into the Top Buffs countdown like we do every week. We kind of recap some of the things we saw from social media. So next weekend, let's do this again.
Okay, we'll have more of our top 40 and move up to.
Actually, we're going to do it in person next week. I'm forgetting. Next week.
Oh, that's right.
In person. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So,
all right, good deal.
All right. Thanks everybody out there for tuning in, and William, always appreciate you.